We're here to talk to you about the Youth Health Leadership Program. So we're from Los Angeles at USC, the other USC on the West Coast. And today we're talking, like I said, about youth health leadership. So this is a behavioral intervention amongst high school age students for exercise and diet, kind of similar to the first talk in a lot of ways. And the idea here is empowering the students to become leaders on health and nutrition. And so we don't have anything to tell you about. And this is one of the anecdotes from one of our students. We'll get into the details of what we did in our program. But during one part of it, the service project was a trash pickup, and one of the students felt that he was had no control. There's no point in trying to make a difference. If you pick up trash, people are just going to litter again. It's kind of giving you a frame of how jaded and disempowered some of the students might feel at the beginning before the intervention. And so if you're not familiar, here's a map. Let's see if it plays. So here's California, and then we'll zoom in here. Here's the Los Angeles County outlined, and then if you go towards the bottom part, this is South LA, and so I'm going to give you some demographics on this area, and then in particular we're working with a high school that's in this subsection of South LA called University Park, and that's kind of out of convenience because that's by our main university. Okay, so here is South Los Angeles, and obesity is more common in this area. Adults are about twice as obese than the county and state overall. And similarly, children as well are about twice as obese, a lot of obesity in this community. And then there's resources are quite limited in the area. So there's not a lot of parks. Recreational space, there's about 24 times less recreational space in South LA compared to the county and the state overall. And so this background picture is one of the few parks in this overall area. A lot of it's driving, shopping, just kind of streets. And it's also low resource setting, so there's a lot less income, about half compared to the city overall. And so now we're going to talk about YouHeaL a little bit.
Oh, so tall. Okay, so what is the Youth Health Leadership Program, also known as YouHeaL for short? It's a weekly program that empowers minority youth to become community health promoters. Through a series of capacity building programs, our participants advance from initially learning about health to educating their peers about health and ultimately to training other peer health educators. This is the timeline of our study. So we started off with a cohort of about 10 high school students from South LA, and they undergo a health training for 6 months. So for the first half of this health training, we focus on nutrition and exercise. And a typical day looks like this. So we start off with a lesson, could be about carbohydrates, for example, and we teach them about how to read a nutrition label, what to buy for groceries, and how to make healthier choices. And at the end of the lesson, we either play sports with them outside, or we do a cooking demonstration as shown here. So on this day, one of the participants' parents came in and taught them how to do, or taught them how to make a healthy salad. And we tried to involve the family as much as possible because they're a part of the community as much as their kids. So for the last half of the health training, we focus on community health. And at the end of the health training, the participants split up into groups, and each group creates their own service project that would benefit the community. So on the left, one group organized a sports fair where they invited their friends, their family, to come outside and play sports with them at this park. And then on the right, we see a group of students who organized a trash pickup. And they managed to collect about 10 industrial-sized garbage bags full of trash within a 1-mile radius. So before we tell you guys more about the program, I wanted to share a story about one of our participants at Baseline. So we have a class clown. He's one of the younger participants. He always makes jokes, sometimes distracts the other participants, and he doesn't really participate. And whenever I ask him a question, he just says, "I don't know." He doesn't really seem motivated. And while he didn't take he wasn't as dated as the first participant we talked about, he didn't take the program very seriously. So Synthia will get back to the class clown in a little bit, but I'm going to explain more about the program.
So after the 6-month health training, Cohort 1 goes through a 6-month mentor training. The goal of mentor training is to essentially have Cohort 1 replace Synthia and I as the teachers of the health training. So future lessons will be youth-led. We do this by employing the train-the-trainer method, which was actually alluded to in a previous talk today. And so this method focuses a lot more on empowering the members rather than just teaching them facilitation skills. And we hope that by empowering them, they don't only contribute to YouHeaL's success, but they also spread their knowledge to their peers, their family members, and other community members. After this whole year, the Cohort 1 uses everything that they learned over the past year by teaching a new cohort the health training. We actually just completed this in June, and we've moved on to our coach training. Coaching is a little bit different than mentoring in that it's a much more administrative and hands-off role. So currently Synthia and I are actually the coaches. So we edit the curriculum, we make suggestions for improvement, we plan the cooking demos and the sports activities for the week. But much like how mentoring was taken over by the previous cohort, we want them to do the same with coaching. So what this looks like is each week after lessons, we meet with the members of Cohort 1 and we ask them to reflect on how the lesson went. So we ask them what they think went well, what they could improve on, and if they think that we could serve them in a better way. And so we hope that this empowers them further and gives them a sense of ownership and responsibility over the program so that it contributes to the program's success. These next few slides are looking a little bit more into our future. And as you can see, it gets pretty exciting. There's 3 levels of involvement now, where we have Cohort 1 as the coaches, and they're coaching the Cohort 2, which are now mentoring a new cohort through the health training. And this is also when the whole program becomes peer-led. So Synthia and I have had a role up until this point, and we hope to get there in January-ish. And then looking further into our future, we see this tiered approach, right? And it's a lot like that song, Row, Row, Row Your Boat, where one person starts singing and then another joins in and then another. And even though the first person stops singing, the song kind of never really ends. And we hope that's what happens with YouHeaL, and that this is what allows it to become self-sustaining.
So again, like Tia mentioned, we're only partway through. So we didn't really have a huge cohort at the beginning. So only 13 people, so that's not really powered to a lot of success. So we ended up combining the cohorts once we've gotten Cohort 2. And so one of those maps, every time you see a new 6-month block start, we're taking a big data analysis of everybody. So we'll go through and ask about empowerment, do a lot of validated surveys, and do some body measurements, answer measurements. So when you combine Cohort 1 and 2, this is from baseline to 6 months later follow-up. So after they've done the entire nutrition education, physical activity and education. Combining both cohorts, that's about 35 students. So all the results I'm about to show are just baseline follow-up 6 months later. And they're just parity tests and repeated measurements. So before we get into the changes over time, this is some of the baseline demographics of our group. Everybody was Hispanic, Latino, self-identified. 3/4 spoke Spanish, primarily at home. About 2/3 were female. And then these are the body measurements I measured, tricep skin fold and waist circumference. And so usually people do BMI, but that doesn't really work with kids because they're growing. So to account for that, the CDC has a bunch of sex and age-adjusted charts for kids, if you're familiar with peds. And so we considered anybody the 85th percentile for their age and sex strata to be overweight. And so if you're measuring the tricep skin fold, according to that measurement, about 1/3 of them are overweight. And if you do the waist circumference, about 1/4 of them are overweight. So a little bit different measurements telling us different things. But if we look at the results, the first one I'm going to go over is the validated survey for empowerment. And this is by Schultz in the 90s. And so what we're seeing here is there's an overall score. And so it's asking students, how much do you feel that you can affect change at various levels? Can you affect your organization? For this case, they're high school students, so it would be their school. Their community in large, and then their individual self. So the overall change was increasing from baseline to follow-up by about 1.5 points. So the possible change is 36 points, so that's about 4%. So we're getting a significant increase in empowerment overall. And then the other ones weren't significant, but we're seeing the expected trends for the subcategories breaking down this overall. It's just designed by this survey. So we're increasing in the expected direction. So people are feeling increased empowerment at all 3 levels. And then the next one was also from the YRBS survey that people have mentioned before, from the CDC. So we asked them in the past week, how often have you eaten these items? And what we're seeing is change from baseline to follow-up. Students are eating significantly more salad, about 3/4 more salad a week, and about half a glass of water increase. So these, again, are very small effects, but we are seeing them in expected directions for everything, except for soda. They're getting an increase in soda, so I don't know what that's about. Got to investigate further. Fortunately, that's not significant. And then we also asked about physical activity, again, from the YRBS survey. So they're increasing their physical activity about an hour every 2 weeks or a half hour every week, and then they're increasing their strength training again about once every 2 weeks. Again, not significant, but in the expected direction. And then screen time. So how often are you playing video games, using Facebook, social media, or watching TV? And so it looked like they were decreasing that about 20 minutes each week. Again, not significant, but in the expected direction. And then these are those anthropometric measurements. This time it's not a baseline, but the change. So the tricep skin fold is actually going up. We think this might be because of a growth spurt, so kids are increasing their exercise, maybe they're getting more fit, we don't know. The other thing is it's a lot of variation in measurements, so different people are measuring, so we're not getting a significant increase, but an overall increase. But what is reaffirming is the waist circumference is going down, albeit a very small amount, but a significant amount, and we think that's a little bit more reliable as far as growth spurt and measurement error.
So this program and all of the data we've shared with you would not be possible without our participants. So we'd like you all to get to know them a little bit better. This is actually a picture of some of the members of Cohort 1, and as you can see, they're a lovely bunch of kids. So as Synthia mentioned, the program happens every Saturday. Imagine yourself in high school. Would you want to learn about health for 3 hours every Saturday? Yeah, probably not. But most of these kids show up every week, and so I was curious, and I just talked to them like, why do you come? Why do you come every Saturday? And I wanted to share some of their answers with you. Some people want to learn to be healthier for themselves. Others told me that they wanted to teach their family and friends how to be healthy. One student told us that it was nice to get away from her family for a bit. And then a few other students said that they came for service hours because they're mandated through school. We expected that. So it's a wide range of reasons for coming, but they all still come, so cool. And then what's most impressive to me and most rewarding is the personal growth I see in each and every one of these students. So I asked one of the students one day, do you think YouHeaL has done anything for you? And he told me this, group did a lot for me. Being around a lot of people pushed me to be more social and showed me how to lead. I feel confident talking to people and leading group sessions. I'm even comfortable doing it solo. So that really inspired me, and it's really exciting to see that not only is this this program combating obesity, it does so much more in my eyes. So, yeah. So back to our class clown. Oh, sorry. He is currently training to be a mentor, and a few weeks ago we had a lesson about power versus empowerment. And these words are difficult to define, so we gave them examples and had a discussion. And at the end of the lesson, I asked the participants, what does empowerment mean in your own words? And our class clown said, it's meeting someone at their level and giving them options. I just thought he nailed it, because meeting someone at their level means treating others as equals, and giving them options means giving them a choice, including them in the decision-making process, and ultimately giving them power. So he's currently a motivated leader, he always participates, but he's still our class clown, but he uses humor to engage and lead his peers. So in summary, South LA faces many problems. We targeted the high obesity rate, but we're aware of all the disparities that exist. Our results indicated changes in expected directions, but they're small. The participants seem to have exhibited healthier diet and exercise behaviors, as well as an increase in leadership and motivation. In the future, YouHeaL would continue indefinitely, as shown in Tia's three-tiered graph, and ideally it would expand to other underserved communities. Lastly, I'd like to thank the Center for Health Equity in the Americas for funding us through scholarships and grants.
We would also like to thank the National Institute of Aging for providing us with the training grant that supported our data analyses. Thank you. Any questions?